Now, it's no secret that I love a good treasure hunt. I mean, National Treasure is one of my all-time favorite films. And the Uncharted series for me is a series I've had a long-standing fascination with. So, naturally, when I heard that Uncharted was being developed for a film, I was very interested. This is my review. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mason Brown. I'm the guy who sits in this chair and says things, and I'm happy to have you back. The Uncharted film has been in development for about as long as Tom Holland's been alive. Back in 2008, just 1 year after the release of the first Uncharted film, Sony already started working on plans to make some kind of a film, some kind of a series. And rightly so. This series as a video game franchise has grown and grown over the last several years with each of the games that they've released, building more and more of these characters, these stories, and this world. In a very fascinating way. The film adaptation, however, has not had such a great history. It has gone through a handful of different directors, a number of different writers, different casts have been put forth, including Mark Wahlberg himself playing the title role of Nathan Drake. However, that kind of fell through over time. It was even offered to Chris Pratt at one point in time, who turned it down in favor of his fellow MCU star Tom Holland. And of course, a film with this much history and this much development, I was very interested to see kind of where they landed on as far as the film, as far as the cast, as far as the tone, and where they plan on taking this franchise. Now, as I previously mentioned, I've had a long-standing fascination with this franchise. As a longtime lover of treasure hunts and treasure hunt films and books, I've definitely wanted to play through these games for a long time now. Within the last year, I've played through the first game, and I really enjoyed it. I really like the action adventure. Obviously, there's kind of the treasure hunting clues and history that's being unraveled. I'm not great at video games, especially shooters. So this one was a little bit of a learning curve for me. I was definitely able to get through it, but it took some practice and I learned a lot from it. I definitely really enjoy the characters, enjoy the story. I do own the other games and I do want to play through them. But at least as far as my standing with the franchise, I've only ever played the first one, so bear that in mind as we go forward. There are some characters and some story elements that I haven't gotten to yet in the game series. Now, first up, I want to talk about the plot of this film. I knew going into it, even from the trailers, that I was going to have a couple issues with this plot. The first thing that I thought was, this movie is going too big too soon. A lot of studio films, I find, do this, especially recently, where they make the stakes so high, you know, in a way to grab the attention of an audience, but in the end, it sort of leaves you with, okay, well, where do they go next? In this film in particular, even just within the trailer, they're talking about this treasure hoard of Magellans that they're looking for. And they say that this is, you know, the largest treasure haul in history, and they say it's, you know, 5 billion easy. That's an outrageous number. 5 billion? I can't imagine a treasure being that large. And so for them to start their first film with a treasure that is that iconic, that large, where do they go? I mean, what do they find next? Atlantis? El Dorado? I mean, that's the first game, is El Dorado, and so I can't imagine, where do they conceivably go from here? You know, how can they make the next one, you know, a bigger, or can they? Another observation I had about this film, even before going into it, was I knew that this was going to be a prequel. Now, we, of course, have an established narrative, an established story, established characters through the games. So this, of course, is going to be a prequel to kind of set up the characters, how they got there, where they are now, and you know, so we can learn a little bit about their backstory, their history, and I don't have an issue with that. My issue comes in telling a prequel story is there's a couple things we know right off the bat. First off, we know these characters aren't going to die. I didn't really think that they would, but so right there, the stakes of their losing in the worst way possible is off the board. We also know they're not going to win. They're not going to get the whole treasure. They're not going to find $5 billion worth of treasure. Otherwise, why play the rest of the games? I also thought the villains in this film were pretty cliche. I don't think that's bad. I just think that they were a little bit uninspired, a little bit generic. I think Antonio Banderas did a great job, but you know, he was only given so much. He's kind of the typical greedy villain. As far as the treasure hunt itself, I thought it was pretty good. I thought the clues and The investigation was pretty good. I don't think it was anything inspired. Other people have made some comments about there's these secret passages that, haven't been seen for centuries, but there's, a club in one of them. These sort of easily accessible plot points that are kind of hidden around or built around, these sort of ancient locations that have just been kind of taken over by modern life. Those definitely took me out of the adventure, but I don't think they were the worst. And then when they end up finding the ships, and you can actually see the ships within the trailer, so this isn't necessarily a spoiler, but they're sort of on the shore inside this cave. How did the ships get in there? Was the water level so low that it was like 40 feet lower and they were able to get through a tunnel to put the ships in there? And how were the helicopters able to get the nets underneath those ships without damaging the ships or without having to pick up the ships themselves? I also found the treasure itself to be pretty unimpressive. They kept saying it's going to be the biggest treasure anyone's ever seen, and it ended up being a few barrels that you see some golden things dumped out of. Implications that there's more, but that was kind of it. So overall, I thought the plot left a lot to be desired, but I thought it was serviceable for the film that we got. I thought it was enjoyable enough. I also wanted to talk about the cast in this film. I thought Tom Holland as Nathan Drake, I think he did a great job playing Tom Holland. Tom Holland is really fun to watch. I think he's got a lot of charisma. You can definitely see him thriving in some of these action set pieces that take place during the film. I thought his performance was definitely very enjoyable. I really liked him, but it felt like Tom Holland. It didn't feel like Nathan Drake. Mark Wahlberg, I think much the same thing applies to him as well. I did not see him as Sully. I saw him as Mark Wahlberg in another film. I think he's fine. I'm not a huge Mark Wahlberg fan, but I think he played his part fine. I didn't feel much chemistry between the two characters, between Nathan and Sully. I know that they were kind of developing their relationship throughout the film. There's a lot of trust issues going both ways. But in the end, I never really bought them together. The banter was fine. I think they both played their parts well, but I never really got that connection like you get in the games. Antonio Banderas, I thought, did a great job. I think he's got a lot of gravitas. I think he's a great actor. But like I said, it's just kind of a generic villain. When he's on screen, he's intimidating, and he does a great job being a villain. But I think in the end, underused and underwritten. I think the rest of the cast did fine. I think the rest of the cast did fine. I don't think there's really any standouts. I think they played their roles well and kind of set up what they need to set up. Nothing overall impressive as far as this casting goes. So, in the end, I liked this film. I thought it was fun. I thought it was entertaining. I thought it was forgettable. I think they built well as far as what this franchise can bring. This franchise has so much love for these characters and this world, and this score is so iconic. Things that were certainly teased within this film, but I think as far as the score and the characters, I never really noticed them. I never really saw them present within this film, some of the iconic elements. So again, I had some issues with it, but I thought it was an overall fine film. I thought it was enjoyable. So that's my overall review of the Uncharted film. If you had a chance to see it, if so, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think, or better yet, make a review of your own and post it down below. I'd love to make a comment, and well, I guess we'll see you in the next one. See you on Thursday.